Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be checking out the source of licorice, anise flavor. So I'm sure you're all aware of licorice. I got some right here. There's some sweet licorice from the Netherlands right here. There's some bay drop licorice. I got a little bit of some salt licorice. Not a huge fan of the saltiness so much. Sweet licorice like this one, not so bad, right? So we're going to find out the source of licorice and anise flavor. We're going to check it out. So as always, the links to the original video will be in the description section down below. So make sure you go check that out. Go to the original video. Show their channel some love. Hit like on that. We're going to check it out right here.
All of these foods, all of them, have the same basic flavor. And there's a good chance you hate it. It's one of the most polarizing flavors there is. And it comes from this plant, fennel.
Really? Okay. I didn't see that coming. I thought anise, I thought these things back here were a whole different thing. I thought that was anise there, right? And then these are seeds.
Polarizing flavors there is. And it comes from this plant, fennel. It also comes from this plant, anise. Also pronounced anise. It's a word of French origin, and anise is the French pronunciation.
So I was wrong. I was calling it anise. Anise, okay.
But I think for me to use the French pronunciation sounds kind of affected, so I generally go with the anglicized version. Problem with the anglicized version is that anise kind of sounds like, well, you know, so it's really a lose-lose situation for me. But lest anyone think I'm just being weird, know that I'm not the only person who says
anise.
Anyway, fennel does have the flavor in question, so does anise. So does star anise, which is a totally different plant from a totally different part of the world.
Okay. Because that's the ones that I've always seen advertised as anise or anise or whatever you call it, right?
Then there's the one you've definitely heard of, licorice, which is a real plant, not just a candy. If you extract the flavor from its roots and mix it with sugar and a binding agent like starch, maybe coat it in wax to make it shiny, you get licorice candy, which is
that easy.
Not my favorite thing.
It's not bad. I'm gonna eat another one.
I like fennel though, probably because the flavor in question is significantly less concentrated in fennel. What is the flavor in question? Anethol, the primary aromatic compound in anise and fennel and star anise and licorice, anethol. If you say you don't like licorice flavor, but really you don't like the flavor of any of these things, well, the true name of thine enemy is anethol. Even if you don't like anethol, it's still an interesting thing to learn about, if only to understand what is happening inside this most notorious of alcoholic beverages.
I was going to say, that's absinthe, right? I've had absinthe. I've seen that. They're pouring it over the spoon. Yeah.
The green fairy. We'll get back to her. Anyway, like most of the oily aromatic compounds we know from food and drink, anethol is a terpene, or terpenoid, because it has oxygen. The botany crowd calls anethol a secondary metabolite of plants. Secondary metabolite being things that organisms make that are not essential for basic life functions. What function does anethol play? Nobody really knows, and it probably depends on the plant in question, but certainly anethol has been shown to have some pretty powerful antimicrobial properties.
Yeah, and the Dutch people say it's good for your throat, so if you're having a sore throat or anything like that, eat some licorice. I think the salty is actually better, so if you're having a sore throat, go for this. There's different brands. I have some other kinds as well. This was all sent to me from the Netherlands. I do have a P.O. box down below if you want to send me some other stuff you want to see me try or do unboxings on, but yeah. I like licorice. It's not bad. The saltiness, though, the salt licorice is a little different. It's going to have to take some time to grow on me for sure.
So maybe it plays a protective role inside plants like fennel. Ancient Mediterranean peoples used fennel as a medicine every bit as much as they used it for food. And yes, this bronze...
Now, fennel, I'm just going to look because we have plants that look like that around here, but they're white. So I'm going to see, is there white fennel? There is. I wonder if that's the same. Yep. Okay, so there is white fennel. I thought that looked familiar.
Fennel plant in my garden is nearly as tall as me. crazy. You're probably more familiar with Florence fennel, the one that grows these big delicious bulbs, but all fennel has celery-like stalks that are really fibrous and unpleasant, in my opinion. Celery and fennel are in the same family, along with carrots, parsley,
So you can eat
dill. And like dill, fennel has these thin, hairy leaves, which have a relatively mild anethol flavor, so they make a lovely garnish. Hey, fun fact, the Greek word for fennel is marathon. Marathon was a field filled with wild fennel. That's why they called the village and the battle they had there the Battle of Marathon. And because a Greek herald ran approximately 40 kilometers from that field to Athens to announce victory over the Persians, people now run a race of similar length called a marathon.
Nice. Now, just, is this mound there to signify the spot of the battle? Because Waterloo, I think it was, I did a reaction on something, they mentioned it, and there was like a big mound built there to signify where the battle took place. Is that what this is for? Does anybody know? Is this like the Battle of Marathon Hill kind of thing?
Victory over the Persians, people now run a race of similar length called a marathon. You're literally running a fennel. Hope you like sausage. The flowers here will eventually produce teeny tiny little fruits that we dry and call seeds, even though they're not seeds, they're the whole fruit.
Now, he said, I hope you like sausage. So fennel, is that what helps season sausage? Because I'm on board. Sausage is great.
And dried fennel fruits, which of course include the seeds at their core, are the classic flavoring in sweet Italian sausage. I love fennel seeds. Almost as deliciously aromatic as Native Deodorant, the sponsor of this video.
Native Deodorant.
Might seem weird.
I'm sponsoring my video, guys. Welcome.
To advertise deodorant on a food channel, but look at these. Coconut and vanilla, delicious. Lavender and rose, delicious. Eucalyptus and mint. Hope it makes me all the more delicious. Another thing that deodorant and cooking have in common is that they tend to involve a lot of single-use plastics, unfortunately, but not native. Check out their new paper-based packaging. Zero plastic wash or toothpaste.
Skip past
delicious.
that real quick.
Thank you. From anise seeds, though the two plants are closely related. Anise is in the same family as fennel. It's also from the Mediterranean, more from the Asian and African side. Anise seeds are also technically little dried fruits, but their flavor is closer to pure anethol. When a lot of people describe anethol flavor, the word they reach for is anise or anise seed, often spelled aniseed. Is that technically an elision, even though it's pronounced exactly the same way?
What is an elision? What does that mean? I thought it was conjunction or something, right? Where you combine two words. The Dutch do that a lot. They combine two words into one long word all the time.
Anyway, the star anise is not a seed, nor is it anise. It's the dried fruit from a completely unrelated evergreen tree from Southeast Asia. In China, they call it bajiao, or eight-horn. Each of the 8 horns has a tiny little seed in it. And again, the flavor here is nearly pure anethol. Here's something a little different. This is tarragon, an herb from the daisy family. Also totally unrelated from these other plants, but it has a similar flavor thanks to estragole.
Very interesting how chemicals and flavors and terpenes and all that stuff can, like, you know, be in completely unrelated plants, and so they give a similar smell and flavor profile. It's very cool.
Estragole is an isomer of anethol, meaning it has the same exact atoms, they're just arranged a little differently in space.
Okay, yeah.
Estragole is the main flavor in tarragon, and
it's the same thing with like CBD molecules. You got CBD, CBG, THC, delta 9 THC, and all that. It's the same amount of whatever. It's just rearranged differently, right? Same concept.
Arranged a little differently in space. Estragole is the main flavor in tarragon, and it's a secondary flavor in basil. Fun fact, while anethol shows anti-cancer properties, estragole is a suspected carcinogen, though probably not in the amounts you'd get from food. Man, what a difference a little isomerization can make. And now that we're really talking science and danger, let's go back to the green fairy. Anethol is...
Absinthe. Love this stuff. I haven't had 100% authentic absinthe. I don't think you can get it into the United States, but if you can sneak that into the P.O. box somehow and get it over to me, I can link that.
Really easily extracted with booze, so it's a flavoring used in many traditional liquors like pastis, sambuca, and absinthe. The green fairy, flavored with some combination of anise, fennel, and wormwood, from which the drink gets its name, Artemisia absinthium. Absinthe got real popular in Paris in the 19th century. It's the drink of Van Gogh and Picasso, and
Nice.
people got it in
Van Gogh was Dutch, by the way. Smart man.
19th century. It's the drink of Van Gogh and Picasso, and people got it in their heads that absinthe makes you crazy. Absinthism, this dangerous condition, was called,
Maybe.
and if it was real, it was due to a supposedly psychoactive compound in the wormwood. Now,
I'm crazy, guys. I've drank absinthe. Maybe that's why, right?
not the anise. In the moral panic that ensued, a lot of countries ended up banning absinthe on scientifically questionable grounds. It wasn't only re-legalized here in the United States until 2007.
Yeah.
Scientists who have subsequently looked at it think that probably there was never enough wormwood in absinthe to give you actual hallucinations.
Right. It's just one of those urban myths for sure. I've heard that a lot, and I heard it was banned before, but it's not. And I don't think it's as strong as what you get in France. So I don't know for sure.
Extreme behavior you could reasonably associate with absinthe was probably due to its very high alcohol content. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to take it neat. You're supposed to grab one of these ornate little absinthe spoons,
sugar
you
cube.
lay on a sugar cube, and then slowly drizzle cold water over top.
Oh, I've been doing it wrong. I just drizzled more absinthe over the top.
This looks real sexy. It dissolves a little sugar in there to balance the anise flavor, and it dilutes the alcohol to something a little more sane.
Yeah, I didn't dilute the alcohol. I just added the sugar. Oops.
And if you keep watching closely, you're going to see something amazing called the ouzo effect. Ouzo is an anise-flavored liquor from Greece that also does the same thing. The
What's that?
more water we pour into this, the cloudier it gets.
Okay, yeah, I didn't pour water in mine, so I don't know.
This is the total opposite of our experience in normal everyday life, right? Generally, when you add water to something, you make it less cloudy, less opaque.
Yeah, that is very curious of a thought. Why is that?
With absinthe and ouzo and some similar things, it's the opposite. And the reason is anethol. Anethol is highly soluble in booze, but it's not really soluble in water. Anethol is an oily substance. It doesn't mix with water. So if you pour in water, you create an emulsion of oil alcohol microdroplets suspended in water. Scientists call it a microemulsion, and it's a super stable emulsion. It'll last months before it separates.
Really?
Check out the slick of anethol I have on the top of this. Some of it has not gotten dispersed in the water yet.
Very interesting. It emulsified. You know, I know emulsion takes a while. Like sometimes it takes a bit to get a stable emulsion. You just mix it in and it's good. That's very interesting.
If I stir it up, yeah, there it goes. If you want to get some absinthe and try this at home, just know that it takes a fair bit of water, and the water has to be cold. It's temperature dependent. Here I am doing the same thing with warm water, and you can see the distinct phases kind of slinking around each other a little bit in there. It's darn pretty, but it's not the ouzo effect.
A couple times it looked like it started to get a little cloudy, but then it cleared back up.
The drink remains basically clear. Here's a recent paper that documents the link between temperature and the ouzo effect, though I still don't really understand why that link exists. Regardless, the authors here argue that this effect could be used to fabricate nanoparticles of many kinds for many different purposes. Pretty cool. It's
Very cool. So they could actually utilize that interesting technology. I don't know if it's technology or science, whatever it is. They can utilize that in other stuff. That's cool.
It's almost enough to make me like anethol. Not my favorite flavor. My licorice of choice is the kind that has no actual licorice at all in it. But, you know, you do you.
All right, guys. That was... I went to the wrong... My autoplay came on. That was the history of anise, licorice flavor, and everything. So that's very cool. I didn't know that licorice was that easily to be made, though. Right? You just mix it up with some water and sugar or something like that. He said, dissolve it down, let it cool. You got candy. Very, very cool. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, please hit like, hit subscribe, and have a super fun, awesome day. You deserve it. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.